Welcome everyone to I'm Nature to Making a Difference TV. I'm here with Lonnie Clark. She is the creator of a great YouTube channel called The Age of Vision, and she's coming on Making a Difference.tv. Welcome, Lonnie. Thanks for
Why, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on with you. I would like to give you a correction. It's a radio show. The Age of Vision radio show is on UCY.tv. It's an internet radio show. My YouTube channel is Nuts for Art, NUTZFORART. And I'm the director of No Nukes Northwest. That's NONUKESNW.org. So
awesome.
A bit busy.
Yeah, sure. Well, you seem to know a lot about the anti-nuke movement, and I just like to ask people a bit of their background in terms of what got you interested in the fact that the whole planet's being radiated.
Well, actually, up until May 5th, 2012, I believed the whole party line. I thought that we were perfectly safe and the government was protecting us. And then I had a nightmare about Hanford. I live in the Northwest. And about a year earlier, I had missed a symposium with Dr. Helen Caldicott about Hanford that was up here. And that always weighed on my head. So I had this nightmare. And I saw the whole sky orange because I was beginning to be aware that Hanford is a huge challenge to the entire, I mean, it's the second most toxic dump site on the entire planet is the Hanford dump site. So I had this nightmare and I went to the internet thinking that it was on fire and it felt so real. It felt so vivid and so real. I discovered that Fukushima was completely out of control, that things weren't great, that what the president told us wasn't right, that we were like in dire straits. So I also discovered it's very difficult to find anything about the nuclear truth or anything on the Googles. I was searching on the Googles and I ended up going to YouTube. I found Miss Milky the Clown. And then I found Missing Sky 1, and then I found Kevin Blanche. And when I saw Kevin Blanche, I decided to start sponsoring him. I asked him to come to Eugene and do a symposium. And he had this idea called the Post-Ignorance Project, which I sponsored for about 2 years and sponsored him to go around the country. And then the last summer that we were working together, he went to Europe. And the day before he went to Europe, he called me up because I think he had plans to ask some other people to be on the radio because he had a show on UCY TV called the Post-Ignorance Project. Well, the day before he went to Europe, he called me. I was like, look, I can't get anybody on the air. You're going to have to cover for me. And I went, oh, okay. So by the end of the summer, I'd been on twice a week. And then I had this idea that if I could get on 3 days a week when Kevin came on, that I could help him make his point better, because he had his radio shows where he was just talking for an hour and a lot of times he'd get sidetracked. But shortly before my show aired, we had a bit of a falling out and we parted ways. He did his show, I did mine, and I've continued to do my show. And we've actually come together as activists. We're still friends because I have this huge, I think we need to stick together as activists. I don't think we need the circular firing squad. I think we need to know who the real enemy is, and that's the nuclear physicists. It's the industrial military complex. And one of the things I've learned, and this is really expanding the scope of my show, is that a lot of social ills all revolve around the lies of the nuclear industry. We got seriously off track when we developed secret governments within our government. We had, right after World War II, after World War I, we started developing these secret portions of the government. And since then, I've realized we have been basically assets on their balance sheet and their little experimental lab rats. So that's my focus, is to stop that. Really just stop that. Give people the courage and the information so that they take action in their own lives, no matter what that is. I believe we all have like a certain mission on the planet. I don't think we're here by accident. So my goal is to get everyone to embrace being an adult. You know, responsibility looks forward, blame looks backwards. We can blame everybody going backwards, but it's our job moving forward to make the planet a better place. So that's kind of my focus.
I love it. I love it. I too agree. I want to bring together all the eco movements, from global warmers to geoengineers to anti-nuclears to anti-GMO people to anti-military industrial complex people. We're all fighting the same enemy, a corrupt system of science, economics, banking, governments that are just in it for themselves. They don't really care if they achieve anything other than earning a paycheck. So the whole range of forces that we're fighting against, and they've been around for a long time. And if we don't get our act together as activists and learn how to work together, we're not going to get anywhere with these issues. So,
You know, I think that's been the benefit of Trump being hired president, is that he has motivated people. Like a friend of mine came over. He's an old and anti-nuke activist from long ago who's been super silent during this whole me jumping up and down during the Fukushima thing. He's like, oh, I did my deal. It's you guys' job. And he finally realized recently that if we want to save what we have left in our country, we have to get serious about. He went to a meeting yesterday here in Eugene. There was 400 people learning how to become activists. So people are like shaken up because the wrecking ball strategy is shaking people up, because people have been very comfortable with these inefficient agencies and inefficient things. Like, okay, we have an education system that doesn't really work, but the thought of firing 460 teachers at one time and turning our schools into schools for profit, I don't think that's the solution people want. So these are ironically, people are not jumping up and down about our air and food being poisoned. We get the water protectors out there talking about the water, but it's so astounding that people are so passive about accepting tritium in our water, accepting plutonium in our food. I mean, our children, the number one cause of cancer in this country is brain cancer among children. And people are not freaking out. They're just saying, well, I guess we're all going to get cancer because that's the cost of modern life. That's not their paradigm, is not my paradigm, and I'm not willing to accept that. Our children deserve better than that.
oh, absolutely. People are coming together. I told you about this anti-nuke group here in the province of Ontario. They've the head of the Ontario Hydro, the big Crown Court that runs, has turned against the nuke industry, the industry that he paved the way for. So I'm glad he figured it out. He's part of this group. They've got almost every municipality in Ontario saying we should stop, shut it down in 2018, deny the new license. So people are coming together. It's just an exciting time to be an activist, because now, at least here in Canada, a lot of issues are that used to be on the outside are considered to be mainstream issues. And I'm sure that's what's going to happen down in the U.S. And regardless of what happens, people like you and I, we have to continue doing what we can do to make a difference. That's why I created Making a Difference TV. Bring the people that I thought were the most powerful voices for the issue together on one platform, and then hopefully we can work together too from there. So, The Age of Fission, I love it. What a great name.
Well, that title came from the artist Thomas Ackerman. He does a whole series of artwork called The Age of Fission. I mean, we both realized we came together through the Post Ignorance Project. That's how I met him. And we came together because really, since Fukushima, the world has changed. The day, once those 3 reactors have blown up, like this is one of the things in this week's news about Fukushima. There's been headlines that saying, radiation levels have spiked 532 microsieverts per hour at Fukushima, the highest ever. Well, actually, it's probably not the highest ever. It's just the first time they've been able to get a computer in there to measure it, right? They're saying, oh, the core, there's a hole in it. Now we're leaking radiation. Well, there's been a hole in it for a long time. The corium in number 2, 1, 2, and 3 is probably in the Pacific Ocean. I mean, this is the pattern of lies. I on my YouTube channel, Nuts for Art, I read this book that I thought was a joke when I first bought it by Dr. John Goffman. It's titled Population Control Through Nuclear Pollution. I thought it was kind of a funny title, so I bought it. And then I started reading it, and it was kind of like his warning to society if we don't. He wrote it in 1972, and he had been ignored. He'd been testifying before Congress the whole time, until warning Congress to stop this insane push towards nuclear reactors and nuclear weapons. It's completely, you can't separate nuclear weapons from nuclear reactors. They go hand in hand. Reactors are made for the war machine, period. So, but in his book, he described how after World War II, when he realized the United States government had destroyed all of its documents on the children and women of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, he decided he was going to study them on his own. So that's what he did. In the mid-60s, he came out with a paper that showed the epidemiological issues caused specifically to children and women who are the most affected. That's why they destroyed it, because they didn't want to have those negative effects in their reports. So, but the other thing he came out with was he observed that the United States government, the military, International Atomic Energy Agency, every government that was associated with nuclears at all, they all underreport the negative effects by 90% of nuclear contamination. And they deny that radiation causes harm. That's their MO. They're still doing it. They will immediately say there's no harm to human health at all. And then they underreport the negative effects by 90%. And, they can deny all they want, but they can't deny the death or the genetic mutation. And frankly, I feel responsible for this because I basically bought the Kool-Aid. Our planet is swimming in nuclear. I heard this morning on Libby Halevi's show, Tom Carpenter from the Hanford Challenge saying, on the Washington State Ecology page, it says that the Hanford leaks have spilled. There's a little notation. Please note that there have been at least 1 million gallons of nuclear pollution already spilled. It's already leaked out. He said there's reality is more like 6 to 8 million gallons of nuclear pollution. Not just 1 million, but 6 to 8 gallons. If we take the 90% rule, it's probably hundreds of thousands of gallons. The reason they can get away with this is because nuclear pollution takes 4 to 8 generations to show up. The worst of the mutations. And you don't just get sick and die. You don't get cancer right away. You get schizophrenia. You get diabetes. You get autism. You get exhaustion and tiredness. You get low thyroid and thyroid problems. You get moodiness and depression. All those things are symptomatic of low-level contamination. So, and this is why, like on my show, I really make an effort to bring people in who understand health and nutrition or healing. Like I had Dr. Bob Heron on. There's things we can do. We can be proactive. We don't have to just wallow in the waste. We just have to take extra precautions. That's all, and be mindful of the fact that we really are living in the age of fission. We are living in a toxic stew that if we do not be mindful, there probably won't be very many humans here in 200 years. That's not that radical to think about.
Our humans will look like boards running around with filtering everything. This is the future they want, because that'll create a lot of industry and a lot of and they want people to have no ability to think for themselves. So,
well, they don't want humans. They want bioengineered humans. It's that whole Ayn Rand on steroids thing that we get to do anything we want to the planet. And if you can't beat us, then we deserve to oppress you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just insanity for real. You know what I mean? And they weigh in on people's ignorance and their illiteracy, because most, like right now, what's happening in our country. In fact, I heard someone this morning saying, well, Trump is just trying to upset the apple cart and he's doing what he can. No, he's bringing in neoliberal ideas. This is called neoliberalism, what they're doing. They imposed it on Chile and they've imposed it on many nations in South America. And it's always been a complete disaster. You have to impose neoliberal ideas. I don't know if you read The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein.
No.
So if you read The Shock Doctrine, you would see what Bush is doing. Trump's Freudian slip there, what Trump is doing, because it is the very same thing. What they do is they come in and shock you. Like you're so stunned that they roll other things in. Like one of the things that Trump did within the last week was they notified the cable networks that they're no longer going to be allowed. There's no more federal funding to help them sponsor poor people. 13 million people in our country were getting a discount of $9.13 a month on their cable bill so they could afford basic cable. That program's being cut out for 13 million people. This is how they're going to give the tax cuts to the rich. They're going to cut all these programs that's why they want to cut out 460,000 teachers. That's the idea. It's neoliberal ideas. Gut social services, gut anything that has to do with a socialist society where we're taking care of the poor, and go back to the days of Dickens when the rich people can decide who they're going to help and who they're not going to help. So, and that's another thing. I would encourage people to start reading because if you read any of Dickens' books, Tale of Two Cities, any of his books, you will see what we are headed for. And it is not a good picture. On top of the fact that we now have nuclear pollution that isn't like coal. It's not like coal. Coal doesn't create a toxic waste that lasts for 700,000 years. Genetically mutate your children in 2 or 3 generations, cause sterility. People think it's not going to affect them, but it does affect them. And then when it does affect them, I have found that people are very hesitant to just accept that they've been harmed by nuclear pollution. It's just so mind-boggling. We can't believe that's actually happened to us. So
there's a lot we could talk about, but this is an introductory show. I just want people to meet you, Lonnie.
Why, thank you. Yeah.
Doing and
well, this is kind of what generates my show on the Age of Fission. I interview, I give voice to activists throughout the country. I try to have a variety of different activists because there are people around. This is the one thing I've discovered is there's many activists around. Mainstream media gives them no voice. So my goal on my show is to give them all a voice. And even if I don't agree with some of their methods, I still give them a voice and bring in healers and just encourage people to just stay active, and get active and educate themselves.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, Lonnie. Well, maybe you can have me on as a guest too.
I would love that. I would love that.
We'll talk about what I'm doing with Making a Difference TV and why I invited you and all that good stuff, the bigger plans I have in mind. But this is an introductory show. I just want people to meet you and get a sense of what your show's about. And I think I told you earlier I was going to go with another activist, but unfortunately a lot of activists have, I don't work with other people syndrome, which is a real problem. And we have to get activists. I focus on activists who know how to get along with other activists. That's number one criteria in my book. And you seem to have a good grasp of the issues too. So I'm so excited you're coming on. And I look forward to seeing your shows. Hopefully you'll do some of them in video. And and we'll take it from there. So
okay.
Thanks so much, Lonnie.
And thank you, Brian. And I'll definitely schedule you. I'll call you and we'll schedule you for my show. I'd love to have people learn more about your site.